Shane Rylance stared at the stack of bills on his kitchen counter, his jaw tight, his hands still greasy from changing the brakes on an old Honda in his garage. "Dad, we're out of peanut butter." His 7-year-old son, Jamie, called from the living room, wearing mismatched socks and holding a half-squished sandwich. "Use jelly on both sides. It's a new invention," Shane called back with forced cheer, but his chest tightened as he eyed the overdue electric bill. Being a single dad wasn't the hard part. The hard part was doing it without help and without money. Jamie's mom had left when he was 2 and never looked back. Shane didn't have time for dating, but his sister had practically forced him to download the dating app last night after Jamie was asleep. "You need someone," she'd said. "You're more than just a dad and a mechanic." He hadn't expected much, but this morning he'd matched with someone. Her name was Gianna, no last name listed, just a blurry photo of her laughing in a cafe, hair in a messy bun, wearing a hoodie. She looked real and different. While every other profile was filtered and glamorous, hers felt like a deep breath of air. And now, somehow, he was waiting at a park bench near downtown, tugging on the sleeves of his one decent shirt, praying Jamie's babysitter wouldn't cancel again. He didn't even know why he agreed to meet. Maybe curiosity. Maybe hope. And then he saw her. Gianna walked toward him, wearing jeans and boots, a leather jacket slung over one shoulder like she didn't care it was designer. Her dark hair was tied back, and her face was prettier than in the photo. But there was something else, a kind of quiet confidence, like she belonged everywhere she went. "You're Shane?" she asked, stopping with a soft smile. "Yeah, you're Gianna," he asked, standing. "Yep, I know, I don't look like my picture. Finally upgraded from blurry selfies," she said, laughing. "No, you look great," he said, feeling like an idiot. They walked down the park path, talking about everything and nothing. Gianna laughed easily, asked about Jamie like she really wanted to know, and didn't flinch when he admitted he worked out of his garage fixing cars. "Do you love it?" she asked. He blinked, the grease and busted knuckles. "No, the work, helping people, building things." He paused. "Yeah, I do." She smiled like she already knew that. They ended up at a food truck, eating tacos on a bench, laughing about how both of them hated olives and had never been to Europe. "I always wanted to go to Italy," she said, brushing a crumb from her jeans, "but my life's been busy." "What do you do?" he asked. "I run a company," she said casually, then took a bite like it wasn't a big deal. He nodded, not pushing. "Well, you've got a great sense of humor for a boss." She grinned. "I try." The sun dipped lower, and Shane checked his watch. "I should head back. Jamie's probably convincing the sitter to let him eat cookies for dinner." Her eyes lit up. "Can I meet him sometime?" He froze. "Really?" "Yes, I mean if we go out again." He smiled. "I'd like that." They met again and again. Each time, she showed up in jeans and sneakers, never once acting like she was better than anyone else. She asked about Jamie, brought him little things like a superhero keychain, and even helped Shane fix a busted tail light in his garage one evening. But something didn't add up. She always paid in cash, never talked about her job. Once, he saw a black SUV pick her up from a corner a few blocks away, and when he asked, she just said, "My driver hates traffic." Driver. Still, he couldn't stop seeing her. One night, after Jamie fell asleep, they sat on Shane's tiny porch, drinking beer out of mismatched mugs. Gianna curled her knees to her chest, watching the stars. "I like this," she whispered. "What?" "You, Jamie, this little porch." He turned to her. "You're not used to porches." She hesitated. "Not really. I grew up around them, but then life changed." "How?" She looked at him, her voice quieter. You ever feel like people only see one part of you, the part they want to use? All the time. They sat in silence. Then she looked at him, eyes shining. You're nothing like anyone I've ever met. He chuckled. You say that like it's a good thing. It is. And then she kissed him. It wasn't soft. It wasn't planned. It was full of heat and something else, something desperate and real. Like she'd been holding back and finally let go. From that night on, things changed. She came over more often. Jamie adored her. She helped him with homework, brought over pizza, and once surprised both of them with a telescope. Just a loan, she said when Shane protested. I have one in storage. But Shane couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. He didn't push, he was falling, hard, but he didn't want to scare her off. And then came the night everything cracked open. They were at a small Italian place retreat. Gianna had reserved a private booth, and they were halfway through dessert when a man in a sharp suit approached. Miss Gianna Grayson, he said stiffly, ignoring Shane completely. We're needed at the board meeting. Shane blinked. Board meeting? You said you had the day off. Gianna froze. The man glanced at Shane like he was furniture. Your father is waiting. Shane stood slowly. Gianna, what's going on? She swallowed, looking suddenly small. I should have told you. Told me what? I'm not just someone who runs a company. I'm the CEO of Grayson Holdings. He stared. The billion-dollar real estate company. She nodded. My family started it. Took over 3 years ago. He couldn't speak. I didn't mean to lie, just, I liked who I was with you. Not the headlines, not the money, just me. Shane stepped back, hurt flaring in his chest. So you were slumming it, playing normal. No, she stood, reaching for him. I fell in love with you, Shane, with Jamie, with this life. He shook his head. You should go. Shane, please. But he turned away. And she left. The rain started just after midnight. It hit the tin roof of the garage in soft taps, sinking with the quiet creak of Shane's stool as he sat alone, staring at the half-finished brake job on the old Chevy in front of him. He hadn't touched it since the night Gianna walked out. He hadn't told Jamie anything. Just said Gianna had to go away for a while. Jamie didn't ask questions, just hugged the telescope tighter to his chest and went to bed. The silence now was heavy. Not just the absence of her voice or her laughter, but the weight of everything she hadn't said sooner. And maybe what hurt more was the fact that he'd believed every single moment with her had been real, because it had felt real, until it wasn't. A knock echoed from the side door. He stood, wiping his hands on a rag, expecting his sister or maybe a customer too late to care about boundaries. But it was a delivery man, soaked and holding a garment bag with a white envelope pinned to it. You Shane Rylance? Yeah. Signature. He scrawled his name, confused, and took the package. The man jogged back to the van without a word. He opened the envelope first. The card inside was thick, with his name embossed at the top. Inside, in clean handwriting, were 5 words. Please come to the gala. No signature, just a small gold emblem in the corner, a lion's head. He stared at it for a long time before unzipping the garment bag. Inside was a tailored black suit. Wool, sleek, and definitely not something off any department rack. The tag on the inner pocket read a designer he couldn't pronounce and dared not Google. He pulled the door closed behind him, locking the garage before heading inside. It wasn't the suit that made him hesitate. It was the invitation, the gall of her, after everything. After keeping him in the dark while pretending she was someone else. And now this, an invitation to some elite party like nothing had happened. He tossed the card on the counter and checked the clock. Jamie would be back from his sister's in the morning. He had agreed to let her take him for the weekend so Shane could catch up on work. But instead of working, he'd been sitting in the quiet. He didn't sleep, not really. Just drifted in and out on the couch until the sun pushed through the blinds and the air felt too warm. By late afternoon, the suit was still hanging over the back of the kitchen chair, untouched. At 7, he picked it up. The ballroom at the Langston Hotel didn't look like it belonged in the same city he lived in. Crystal chandeliers glittered from the ceiling, and the walls were draped in ivory silk. Men in tuxedos and women in floor-length gowns moved through the space like they'd been born to it. A string quartet played somewhere near the back, and waiters in white gloves offered flutes of champagne on trays that cost more than his weekly rent. Shane kept his hands at his sides, unsure what to do with them. He hadn't worn cufflinks since high school prom, and the ones Gianna had sent with the suit felt like they might be worth more than his truck. A hostess approached, her clipboard pressed to her chest. "Name, please." "Shane Rylance." Her eyes flicked to the list. "Right this way." He followed her across the room, through clusters of high-profile guests, past a wall of press photographers, and up a staircase that overlooked the entire ballroom. At the top stood Gianna. She wore navy, dark, elegant, sharp at the shoulders and fitted through the waist. Her hair was pulled back in a way that showed the line of her jaw, and she didn't wear a single piece of jewelry except for a thin gold bracelet on her right wrist. She didn't smile. She just looked at him like she was afraid he might vanish. "You came," she said quietly. "I almost didn't," he admitted, glancing at the crowd below. "This isn't exactly my usual Saturday night." "I know." He waited. When she didn't say anything more, he added, "Why did you send that invitation?" "Because I need to tell you everything. All of it, not in pieces, not in half-truths." She turned and walked through a set of glass doors onto a private terrace. He followed, the cold air biting against his neck. "My father built Grayson Holdings from the ground up. But by the time I was old enough to understand what the company meant, it wasn't just business anymore. It was war, board members, investors, family, everyone wanted control." She leaned over the marble railing, her voice steady but low. "When I took over, no one believed I could do it, not without turning into my father, so I did the opposite. I kept everything close. I kept people out, especially anyone who might see more than the job." He watched her, the wind tugging at a loose strand of hair that had escaped her bun. "I didn't expect you," she said finally. "I didn't expect to meet someone who didn't care who I was, who talked to me like I was just a person." He crossed his arms. "You could have told me any time." "I was afraid the second I did, it would change everything." "It did." She turned to him. "I didn't come into your life to play a part. I stayed because it was the only time I felt like myself." He searched her face. "So what do you want now?" "I want the truth between us. No more pretending, no more hiding." "And what if I don't fit in this world of yours?" "Then I'll walk away from it." He blinked. "You'd give all this up." "I already have. I stepped down this morning. The board will make it official next week." He stared at her, stunned. "You're serious?" "I don't want a life that doesn't include the two of you. I love you, Shane. I love Jamie. If that means walking away from everything I built, I'll do it." He stepped closer, heart pounding. "You don't have to give up who you are. I never wanted that. I just don't want to lose you." He reached for her hand. "Then don't." They stood in silence, the city lights flickering below them, the sounds of the gala fading behind the glass. He traced the edge of her bracelet with his thumb. "I have conditions," he said. A flicker of amusement crept into her eyes. "Of course you do." First, you meet my sister. She's going to grill you. I'll bring wine. Second, you let me pay for dinner once in a while. You might have to fight me on that one. He smiled, and third, no more surprises. She nodded, deal. They didn't kiss, not yet, but the air between them shifted, and the weight that had hung between them began to lift, thread by thread. Below, the crowd clapped as a new speaker took the stage. But up here, on a terrace far above the noise, the only thing that mattered was what came next. The sound of sneakers pounding against the cracked sidewalk was the only thing Shane focused on as he jogged through the neighborhood just after sunrise. His breath came in heavy bursts, his palms damp from the humid morning air. He didn't usually run this early, but Jamie was still at his sister's, and after last night, his chest felt too full to sit still. He hadn't slept, not really. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Gianna standing there on that terrace, saying she'd walked away from it all. No hesitation, no conditions. He didn't know what to do with that. She'd shown up at his life like a spark unexpected, too bright, too fast, and now she was offering to burn down her entire world just to stay. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He slowed to a walk, pulled it out, and saw his sister's name flashing on the screen. Hey, he answered, still catching his breath. You gonna pick up your kid today or what? She asked. He smiled faintly. Yes, I'll be there by noon. He had pancakes and beat me at checkers, so you owe me. Also, he asked me if he was allowed to marry Gianna when he grows up. Shane stopped walking. He what? I told him to aim high. He exhaled slowly. Thanks. Come get him, bring coffee. By noon, Jamie was chattering in the passenger seat about a squirrel they'd seen on the fire escape, and how it looked like it was planning something. Shane watched him out of the corner of his eye. Hey, bud, what would you think about seeing Gianna again? Jamie's face lit up. Really, where is she? She's figuring some things out, but I think she wants to see you too. Can she come over tonight? Save the last chocolate pudding. Shane grinned. Let me ask. That evening, Gianna didn't come through the front door. She came through the back, stepping into the garage while Shane was finishing up an oil change. She wore a faded t-shirt with the sleeves rolled and her hair down, falling over one shoulder. No jewelry, no designer anything, just her. You working or hiding? She asked, leaning against the doorway. He wiped his hands on a rag, bit of both. She walked in slowly, looking around. You ever think about expanding this place? He raised an eyebrow. You offering to invest? No, I'm offering to help you buy the building next door. He didn't laugh. You serious? I don't want to change what you do. I want to make it easier for you to do more of it. He studied her. You're not playing savior, right? She stepped closer. You think I'd waste my time saving someone who doesn't need it? He set the rag down. You have a lot of money. I have more than I need. And you're not running a company anymore. I'm not. So what are you going to do? I was thinking of starting something new, something small, something that matters. Like what? She looked at him. I don't know yet, but I want it to be mine, not my father's, not the board's, mine. He nodded slowly. I respect that. She hesitated. Can I see Jamie? He's been setting aside pudding for you. She laughed, and the tension between them cracked like glass under pressure. Inside, Jamie was already waiting with 2 spoons and a plastic cup on the kitchen table. Did you bring the telescope back? He asked. I did better, she said, kneeling beside him. I brought a star map. We can track constellations together. Shane leaned on the doorframe, watching the two of them. The way Jamie beamed. The way Gianna looked at him like he was the most important person in the room. Later, after Jamie fell asleep with the star map clutched in one hand and a flashlight in the other, Shane walked out onto the porch where Gianna sat, legs tucked beneath her and a mug of tea in her hands. "I used to think I had to prove myself to everyone," she said softly. "Now, I just want to be someone my future kids would be proud of." He looked at her. "You thinking about that, kids?" "I think about a lot of things now. Things I never had time for before." He sat beside her. "I never thought I'd meet someone like you. Someone who lied to you. Someone who could walk away from everything they knew, just to be real." She was quiet for a moment. "I've been looking at apartments." His heart sank before she added, "Not far, a few blocks from here." He blinked. "You're moving here." "If you want me to." He didn't answer right away, just reached over, took the mug from her hands and set it down. Then he kissed her. It wasn't rushed or desperate. It was quiet, certain, like everything that had been uncertain between them had finally settled. When he pulled back, she looked at him and whispered, "So is that a yes?" "It's a hell yes." She laughed, resting her head against his shoulder. They sat there as the porch light flickered and a breeze rustled the leaves in the yard. No gala, no headlines, just two people who had found their way back to something real. And this time, they weren't letting go. The soft rush of water from the kitchen sink filled the silence as Shane scrubbed the last of the breakfast plates. Jamie sat cross-legged on the living room rug, assembling what looked like a futuristic spaceship out of mismatched Lego bricks. Gianna stood at the table, folding the corners of a hand-drawn flyer she'd been helping Jamie design for a school fundraiser. Shane dried his hands, watching her as she leaned down to read Jamie's scribbled caption. "Intergalactic cookie sale," she asked, tilting her head. "We're raising money for the science lab," Jamie said without looking up, "and cookies are better when they're from space." Gianna folded the paper carefully. "That is, without a doubt, the most genius marketing strategy I've ever heard." Shane leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Better than Grayson Holdings' last quarter pitch deck." Gianna glanced at him. "Don't tempt me to invest in a second grader's cookie empire." He grinned, but the laughter faded into something deeper, comfortable, grounded, real. Jamie picked up his spaceship and darted toward the hall. "I'm putting this in my room, don't touch it." They waited until his footsteps disappeared upstairs. Gianna turned to Shane. "I meant to tell you something. Yesterday, I met with a few people I used to work with, quietly, no press, no boardroom." He raised an eyebrow. "You going back?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "Ask them to help me start a foundation, something smaller, focused on local businesses and single-parent grants. I want to use the money, have to lift up people who actually need it." He stepped closer. "You're building something again." She nodded. "But this time it's mine, and it's not about legacy, it's about impact." He looked down at her hands, soft but steady. "You sure you're not doing this to prove anything?" "I used to be, but now I just want to build something that feels like it matters. Something that looks like this." She gestured around the room, the faded wallpaper, the half-finished science project on the table, the faint hum of cartoons from Jamie's room upstairs. "I want a life that feels like Sunday mornings and burnt toast and laughter I didn't have to earn." He exhaled, something easing in his chest. "And what about us?" he asked. "Where do we fit in this new plan?" "I don't want you to fit in. I want to build it around us." He moved closer until there was barely space between them. "I'm not a project, Gianna." "I know," she said softly. "You're the reason I stopped needing one." She leaned up and kissed him, slow and intentional. When she pulled back, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I love you, and I want to marry you." Shane blinked. "Are you proposing to me in my kitchen?" She laughed. I thought about doing something huge, a rooftop, violinists, champagne. But then I realized I already have exactly what I want. He looked at her, his heart pounding. I don't have a ring. I don't need one yet, just an answer. He nodded. Yes, absolutely yes. Jamie's voice burst from the hallway. Did someone say yes? Did I miss cake? They turned, laughing as Jamie skidded into the room, socks sliding on the floor. I'll explain in a second, Shane said, crouching beside him, but how would you feel if Gianna stuck around? Forever. Jamie's eyes widened, like she lives here all the time. Gianna smiled, if that's okay with you. Jamie threw his arms around her. As long as I still get the telescope on weekends. Deal, she whispered, hugging him tightly. Over the next few weeks, their lives shifted, not in big, sweeping ways, but in dozens of tiny, permanent ones. Gianna moved into the house down the street, one with a bigger backyard, and a second-floor study Jamie immediately turned into his mission control. Shane helped her paint the walls while she organized her new foundation's paperwork on the floor. The garage expanded. Not drastically, but enough to take in 2 apprentices from the community college, both working parents trying to make their way. Gianna came by sometimes with lunch or a clipboard full of handwritten grant proposals. One evening, Shane pulled into the driveway to the smell of something slightly burned and the sound of Jamie shouting, "It's not charcoal, it's well done." Inside, Gianna was fanning the smoke detector with a dish towel. She looked up, eyes watering from laughter. I tried to make meatloaf, it betrayed me. He walked over and kissed her temple. I'll get pizza. They ate on the floor, surrounded by mismatched plates and Jamie's new paper solar system taped to the wall. Shane watched them both, the way their laughter filled the space, and knew without question that this was it. A few months later, they stood in a courthouse with Jamie in a miniature suit, holding the rings. No press, no announcements, just them. Shane held Gianna's hands, steady and warm, and whispered, I still can't believe I met you because my sister made me download an app. Gianna grinned, best algorithm ever. They exchanged vows that didn't mention wealth or legacy or mistakes, just promises to choose each other every day without conditions. Outside, the sun was shining, and Jamie ran ahead, shouting something about throwing rice and launching confetti. Gianna looked up at Shane, you ready for forever? He kissed her, I've been ready since you fixed that tail light. They walked forward together, hand in hand, into a life that wasn't perfect, but was entirely, unapologetically theirs. The scent of fresh paint still lingered faintly in the air, mixing with cinnamon from the bakery across the street and the laughter of children playing near the fountain outside. Gianna tucked a clipboard under her arm and stepped through the wide glass doors of the new community center, her heels echoing softly against the polished floors. She paused just inside the entrance, taking it all in. Light streamed through the tall windows, casting warm patterns across the open lobby, where a few volunteers were setting up folding chairs and stacking boxes of school supplies. On the far wall, the new logo gleamed in brushed gold, the Grayson Rylance Foundation. Shane walked out from one of the side rooms, wiping his hands on a cloth. His sleeves were rolled up, and there was a streak of blue paint near his collarbone. You missed a spot, she said, pointing to his neck. He glanced down. I thought you liked it when I looked like I fought a paint can and lost. I do, but not when there's a senator coming for the opening ceremony in 20 minutes. He stepped closer, brushing his fingers over her waist. He'll be too distracted by you to notice me. Gianna raised an eyebrow. Flattery won't distract me from the fact that you still haven't fixed the door to the supply closet. It sticks. I know, it's on my list. It was on your list yesterday. And yet here you are, still in love with me. She tilted her head, debatable. He leaned in, whispering, "Say that again after the ribbon cutting." Jamie burst through the side entrance, his backpack swinging wildly as he skidded to a stop between them. "Mom, Dad, the news people are outside, and someone brought a llama." Gianna blinked. "A what?" Shane looked at Jamie. "A real one. With a bow tie." "I didn't approve a llama," Gianna muttered, already walking toward the front doors. "I might have mentioned something about wanting the event to be memorable," Shane said behind her. She turned, eyes narrowed. "You said balloons, not livestock." He grinned. "What's more memorable than a bow-tied llama?" Outside, a small crowd had already gathered in the square. Local reporters milled about with microphones, city council members shook hands, and a large red ribbon stretched across the building's entrance. Sure enough, standing beside a bemused handler was a snow-white llama, a navy blue bow tie fastened neatly around its neck. Gianna pressed her fingers to her temple. "Cannot believe this." Shane stepped beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "You're welcome." Before she could answer, Jamie tugged at her hand. "Can I say something at the ceremony?" She crouched to his level. "You want to speak?" He nodded, eyes wide, serious. "Just a little." Gianna glanced at Shane, who gave her a small nod. "Of course," she said. "You can go right after me." The ceremony began under a clear sky. Gianna stood at the podium, dressed in a deep emerald jumpsuit that caught the sunlight in all the right places. Her voice was calm, purposeful, as she thanked the city for supporting the vision, the donors for believing in the purpose, and the community for inspiring the dream. "This isn't a building," she said, her gaze sweeping across the crowd. "It's a promise that no one has to rise alone." Applause burst around her as she stepped aside for Jamie, who climbed up with help from Shane. "My mom and dad made this place so people can get help and be awesome," he said, gripping the microphone in both hands. "Also, there's a llama, so it's already the best building ever." Laughter rippled through the crowd, and even the stern-faced senator chuckled. After the ribbon was cut and the cameras packed away, the guests filtered inside to tour the new classrooms, meeting spaces, and resource center. Jamie gave an impromptu tour to a group of kids, proudly pointing out the snack bar and the science corner. Gianna stood near the back wall, watching the room fill with life, when Shane came up beside her holding 2 paper cups of lemonade. "You did it," he said, handing her one. "We did." He brushed his thumb against her wrist. "And you didn't even run away when the microphones came out." "I'm growing." He leaned down. "You know, I've been thinking about something." "That's usually dangerous." He ignored her. "We never took a honeymoon." She turned. "You want to fly to Paris now?" "No, I want to take you and Jamie to the lake house." She blinked. "The one your uncle left you?" "I've been fixing it up on weekends, quietly. Thought it might be time to show it to you." She set her lemonade down. "Is this a surprise I'm supposed to act shocked about?" "No, this one's not a surprise. It's a plan." Gianna smiled. "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow. I already cleared your schedule." "You've been talking to my assistant." "She likes me better than you." They left the next morning, driving north with the windows down, Jamie asleep in the backseat with his headphones on and a half-eaten granola bar in his hand. The lake house came into view near noon, tucked between pine trees and overlooking a stretch of still, silver water. It wasn't massive, not by Billionaire standards, but it was beautiful, rustic, real. A wide porch wrapped around the front, and inside, the rooms were filled with light, wood, and the scent of cedar. Gianna walked through slowly, taking it all in. In the bedroom, a photo sat on the dresser. The 3 of them at the community center groundbreaking. Jamie had frosting on his nose, and Shane was mid-laugh. You put this here. He nodded. I want this place to feel like us, not just a getaway, a beginning. Later that night, after Jamie had fallen asleep in a hammock with a book on his chest, Shane lit a fire in the stone pit beside the porch. Gianna curled beside him on the bench, her head on his shoulder. You know what I never expected, she whispered. What? That the best part of my life would come after. I gave up everything I thought I needed. He kissed the top of her head. You didn't give up anything, you just made space. She looked up at him. You think it's possible to build something perfect? No, he said, but think we already built something better. They sat in silence, the fire crackling, the lake stretching out before them like a promise. In the distance, an owl called through the trees. And in that moment, with nothing left to prove and no more secrets between them, Gianna felt something she'd never known before. Peace. She turned to Shane, eyes soft and sure. Let's stay a while. He took her hand. Forever sound good. She nodded. Perfect.